Dear SwissBorg community, thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Alpha. And in this episode, we're going to cover the hottest topic in crypto, the combination of a decentralized network and AI. So without further ado, we're going to ask all the right questions to help you, the investor, decide whether this node sale is for you or not. And we're very lucky to have Michael, the co-founder of Zero Gravity. So without further ado, let's go.
Hey, thanks for having me, Alex. Excited to be here, co-founder and CEO of Zero Gravity or Zero G. What Zero G does is we're building the first decentralized AI operating system, and I'm sure we'll dive pretty deep into the tech, but quick background on myself. I started out on the engineering and technical product management side at Microsoft and SAP, then moved over more to the business side, worked at Bain & Company, consulted Fortune 500 companies. After that, went into TradFi, worked for Bridgewater Associates for a while, saw about 60 billion in trades on a daily basis in the portfolio construction division. And then after that, went back to graduate school, started my first unicorn company called Garten, was on the B2B well-being space, so more of a Web2 kind of SaaS company. And then left that late 2022 to pursue new things. Went through co-founder dating with, I must say, the best engineers that I've ever worked with, Ming, Fan, and Thomas. And we started Zero G together. And now we're here.
And thank you so much for tuning in, Michael, especially right now. You're in Bangkok for DEF CON, and you literally had to jump into the closest cafe to record this so that we can get this footage out for the community. So really appreciate that effort.
Oh, great to be here. Thanks for having me. So excited about presenting this to your community.
Amazing. So you guys know the framework that we use for these shows. Essentially, we have what we call the 7 T's. It's an acronym, and the first T stands for team, the second for tech, third for token, fourth for theme and trend, which you guys may know. This is decentralized AI. Fifth is attraction, sixth timing in terms and conditions. We may skip the last one, but we'll try to address all of these categories because they're probably the most important when it comes to the investor's perspective and whether this is the right fit for you. So without further ado, let's jump into the questions, and we'll kick off with, I guess, the team here, right, Michael? So a lot of people are wondering, what is the team that you have behind you to help you execute this dream and this vision? And please let us know how you built the team and what are the different backgrounds you have.
Yeah, it really started with my co-founder, our former classmate Thomas, calling me up late 2022, and he basically said like, "Hey, we've invested in a bunch of crypto projects together. We studied, Bitcoin when we were in grad school. 2014, we bought some. I think you wanted to do something in the cryptocurrency space. I have a team that I backed 5 years ago called Conflux, and Ming and Fun are like the best engineers I've ever backed. I think we all would make a great combination. Do you want to meet with them?" And so I said, "Yeah, I'm ready to explore something new. Let's chat." 4 of us got together, hit it off super well, loved like the value system behind it. And after 6 months of co-founder dating, I was like, wow, these are the best engineers and computer scientists I've ever worked with. And so if we can pull up the slide, I can go a little bit about the through the background. So, and we need to update the slide now because we just announced our fundraise. So it's actually more than 500 million raised at this point. And so I talked a bit about my background. Ming, he spent 11 years at Microsoft Research. He's one of the foremost experts on decentralized storage. He wrote some of the first AI algorithms for Microsoft's search engine Bing. And then Fun was originally his intern before they started Conflux together. Fun has 2 Olympic gold medals in informatics. He's an MIT computer science PhD, and also as a University of Toronto professor. So really, really strong kind of academic thought, leadership type of background. Many top paper awards in really prestigious computer science conferences. And then Thomas, my classmate from Stanford, VC background, operator background from IDEO. And then we've attracted, I think it's getting close to maybe a 50-person team at this point, but Jason, our VP of AI, also Microsoft, Airbnb background, AI chip company background. Dong, VP of blockchain, he has an Olympic gold medal in informatics as well, high frequency trading, a Microsoft background, Carnegie Mellon PhD, and various other ones as well. So like our chief of staff from Animoca, for example, worked at McKinsey and Amazon. Tiffany's the VP of ecosystem, 4 years at Ava Labs, also at Apple before that, and the brand division. Jake, our head of BD, is from Chainlink, and then Michelle, product lead, also from Ava Labs and Morgan Stanley. So we're really trying to build like a top tier A+ talent team, because the future of AI depends on what we're doing. And so very, very high talent bar for Zero G Labs.
So do you mind telling us a little bit once again about how much you raised? Because that sounds like absolutely unbelievable, especially in the current timing, in the current climate. But also, who are these people that are backing you?
Yeah, it's really basically a lot of tier one funds. And I particularly, so in a Web2 context, I would not do a fundraise like this. But in a Web3 context, we firmly believe in decentralization, in community ownership. So it's very weird to raise a funding round where you have like one massive lead and then they own like 20% of the token supply. It just makes no sense. Like the token cap table needs to be decentralized, just like everything else about the protocol. And so we've got some amazing backers backing us, like Hack VC, Bankless Ventures, Stanford's Blockchain Builder Fund, Alliance DAO, OKX Ventures, DAO5, which is ex-Polychain partners, Gumi Cryptos. We've got a bunch of AI funds backing us as well, like Abstract Ventures, LifeX, one of the GPs from Foundation Capital, and many, many more AI founders themselves, like Ahmad Mustaq, for example, and many regional funds as well, because we believe in a global community. So, for example, Announced Classic is on here. We've got some kind of stronger ones like Moonhill Capital and Daedalus on the European side, and Imoca Brands, which is strong in kind of gaming and so on. So really wanted to have a strong decentralized ecosystem. So as we build out our ecosystem, all of the companies that are going through our accelerator can also tap into this really vast network. So we've got more than 200 investors on our cap table and have raised more than 325 million at this point from tier one investors. So really proud of the team. Without the team, this would not have been possible, because many investors, they look at the quality of the team and they're like, they know what they're doing. They're up to something. We need to back them.
Yeah, so two comments on that, Michael. So first off, I must say, I really like this cap table, and I'll tell you why. You have the infrastructural plays that are investing, and I think they're always good advisors, to really understand what are the pitfalls that they've gone through when building core infrastructure. You have some of the strong VCs that can help you with listings. You have the exchanges also that can help you listings. Plus, you have the content creators, right? I can see Coin Bureau here. I can see Bankless. These are tier one content creators. And what I must add is the Stanford Blockchain Fund. Having academics, does that mean, Michael, in any ways that you guys will have access to research labs, or how are you going to work with this university in particular?
Don't disclose our offer before we release it, Alex.
Okay.
No, you're absolutely spot on. We need to do very deep AI research. So right now we're doing research on AI alignment as well as decentralized compute. And so we're working with leading organizations in Singapore, the US. And so stay tuned for a lot of great announcements. Of course, my alma mater will be involved.
Amazing, Michael. And the reason why I was asking you that question is because I believe working with Polytechnique for SwissBorg per se was really a huge pivotal point, because once you get that research from some of the best engineering schools, it has helped our CTO tremendously. Also for hiring, talent. There are multiple angles, but it's always good to work with these top universities. So very happy to see that. All right, great. Well, we've talked about the team more or less. So perhaps what we can do is kind of go back to the T's and move on to the technology, Michael. So I guess the first question I have for you, my friend, is what is zero G in one sentence? Really a simplified way. And also, why have you decided to build AI on a trustless network? Why decentralized AI?
So in one sentence, we're building decentralized AI, which closed AI, you have no idea. It's a complete black box. Where did the data come from? Who made the censorship decisions? What were the weights that were used for the particular model? Like, how was the alignment done? You're trusting one entity to basically run all of AI for you. Imagine AI starts running societal processes for us, administrative systems, logistics systems, like air traffic control, for example. If we don't have confidence in the verification of these AI models, what's to stop somebody from switching out the AI model and changing the inference parameters? That could be the difference between an airplane crashing into another or not crashing into one. And so for these big societal use cases, when we're going to have AI that's actually automating this for us, it needs to live on a blockchain, because you can verify it, You have a chain of provenance. You know where the data came from, who contributed to it. And so, therefore, we had to really start from scratch. We had to build the entire stack so that it's made for AI workloads. So we have to have a chain that can infinitely scale, essentially, because these AI workloads, if you look at data centers for training, you have terabytes per second now of throughput. Ethereum does 80 kilobytes per second in throughput. You're like a million times off, more than a million times off from where we need to be if we really want to have this fully on chain. So it requires a fundamentally different data and compute infrastructure. So then on top of that, we're building a compute network, a storage network, the data availability network. And then recently, I'm really proud to say, at the same time as our fundraise release, we've also released a service marketplace where we've partnered with Fala, Aether, and Akash to actually bring for the first time a truly permissionless, truly decentralized, truly verifiable inference system. Because in all of these systems, oftentimes when you go to them, it's either a wrapper on top of ChatGPT, or you actually have to go to the team and say like, oh, can you please permission a GPU cluster for me? You no longer have to do it. It's completely permissionless. And so this, for the first time, we're doing a big unlock for the space. And so super, super excited about that.
That is super cool. So you're really trying to decentralize everything from the hardware layer to the data layer to the dApps layer, right? Have a full decentralized stack. Is that correct?
That's correct. Because, for example, if you look at the base chain, they announced base agent. And then if you look under the hood, it's running OpenAI Swarm underneath. What's to stop OpenAI from saying like, hey, I don't want to support crypto Rails anymore? They could easily switch it off. But in a permissionless and decentralized environment, that cannot happen. And you can basically then also determine what's the best model for these agents to run on. Is it a Llama 3 model? Is it a Mistral model? And so you have a lot more choices about how you engage with these agents, with these models. And so, yeah, super excited.
Makes so much sense because there are a lot of dApps out there. If you're dependent on, let's say, for example, the Apple Store or the Google Android Store, and they can cut you out regardless if you're on chain, that is not decentralized. It has to be a full stack, which makes a lot of sense. And so, Michael, I know it's very complicated to do this, especially with such a technical topic, but how would you define zero G, zero gravity labs, in a single sentence?
It's building the basic infrastructure. So just like when you're using your iPhone or your computer, that you can build the applications that you want on top of it. And so the only difference is that instead of it being on one device, it's on many devices spread out throughout the world, so that nobody can just easily say, hey, you shouldn't run this AI agent, and shut it down.
Amazing. And what is the acronym that you guys are using? It's like DAIOS. What does that stand for?
Yeah, DAIOS. Just like iOS, it's basically the same idea, decentralized AI operating system.
You guys did a really, really big round. Is that because this is such a big topic and you need a lot of funding to survive and be able to provide something that will change the name of the game? Is that the reason behind such a huge round?
Yeah, because in order for decentralized AI to catch up to centralized AI, we need to do a lot of investment into not only the team and build the capabilities to actually build all of this infrastructure, but at the same time also in the compute infrastructure. So when we do research, we need to have access to GPU compute. When we build our ecosystem, we need a large ecosystem fund so people can actually participate and build things on top of zero G. So many of these centralized AI players have billions of dollars behind them. So compared to them, this is still a small quote unquote fundraise. But we need to catch up quickly, and that's the reason for the large fundraise.
To people out there, do your own research at all times. You cannot trust me. I am biased here. But I do believe that the projects that do raise lots of money, obviously they manage to survive multiple cycles, which from an investor standpoint is very important, right? I think those who unfortunately may raise, let's say, anywhere from $1 to $3 million, if you don't manage your money well in the next cycle, you'll be dead in the next crypto winter, right? So I think it's really one important topic to discuss. Okay, great. I think that is really good information. Oh, one last question on the tech, Michael. There are a few companies that are branding themselves very conveniently on this hot narrative of decentralized AI. What is the difference between a typical blockchain that you want to all of a sudden use for AI and the way you're building your blockchain to support these AI agents and modules?
Yeah, so the hype comes from when you're just using, let's say, a ChatGPT API and then embedding it into like a smart contract. Or basically saying like, oh, we now have agent capabilities on chain, but it's really ChatGPT and it's an API call to them. That's not decentralized AI. Decentralized AI is much more fundamental, essentially what I showed with the stack. Even things like BitTensor, for example, which is a great experiment, don't get me wrong, but it's a coordination layer. And then it pushes all of the hard work to the subnets. And then somebody that's a validator on a subnet has to decide, is this the answer that we expect? Well, how do you know that this is the right answer? Let's say you're doing a subnet on decentralized training. And how does the validator know how to distinguish between distributed versus truly decentralized training? If you put two data centers together and you say that's decentralized training, that's not decentralized training in my definition. Decentralized training means using things like consumer GPUs with low bandwidth and asynchronous and batch training. So it's very different. So that's really the biggest difference. It's not just a wrapper on top of ChatGPT.
Beautifully explained. That's really helpful, and especially comparing it with BitTensor, which I Tau token, because it gives even more. It makes it even easier to digest and understand. And so, one thing I must ask, like in terms of the challenges with regards to the technology, Michael, as you know, and there's no beautiful solution to this, it takes time, right? It does take time, and a lot of the projects they start quite centralized, and only as they manage to scale, they will eventually be able to decentralize their actual network. Is that the same for you? And what are some of the challenges that you want to solve? And just being really honest and open, because this doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you have a really big ambition, and everybody needs to understand that it does take time.
Yeah, I feel pretty proud to say that a lot of the core components of the network are already fully decentralized. Often what teams start with, they basically say, okay, we need to run our own nodes first. We'll put them on AWS or Google Cloud or something like that. And then you see a few nodes across the network, and it gives this impression of decentralization. What's happened with us is that we have 120 validator spots, for example, and about 8,000 or so active and inactive validators that are actively competing for being validators. And so what we're trying to do over time is to allow for more and more validator slots so we can become more and more decentralized. So that's one aspect of it, for example. The thing where we still have work to do is how to decentralize governance. So that's one thing that we're thinking through at this point. Our first attempt at that is with our current node sale, for example. And essentially what we've enabled there is to have the community vote on what they think is the best reward structure for the initial token compensation when they first run the node. And so that was super cool because the community kind of jumped in. We initially thought we should do one model, and then the community voted for option B. And so we put community first. But that's still a kind of a road for us. We're thinking about progressive decentralization on the governance side, but from a technology perspective, it's already quite decentralized because you can have different types of providers. For example, this is the service marketplace in the background. We have a full storage network, 5,000 plus nodes that are running on it. So even if you put some data on our network, it's across multiple devices at once. Then you've got like different providers that can provide inference. So you don't have to choose just one provider because that would be ChatGPT again. So you can choose between OPML providers, ZKML providers, TEML providers, and then the zero-G consensus system, which has the 120 active validators and 8,000 inactive validators, essentially make sure all the payments and all the smart contract language is actually correctly validated. And so we believe in true decentralization from a technology perspective on day one.
That's amazing, Michael. And what do you think are going to be the first and major AI agent use cases, right? There's so many different use cases out there. You can see companion AI, you can see generative AI, you can see predictive AI, maybe bots, even like trading for you.
Yeah, right now it's primarily trading and AI meme coin kind of use cases, which is quite fun because Mark Andreessen donating a bunch of money to Terminal of Truth and it then creating, GOAT as a meme coin was just super fun. It's like a really cool story. And then seeing it as, hey, we can actually engage with this agent. It's fun. There's a storyline behind it. It's like great entertainment in a way. So those are some of the first use cases. But over time, you'll start seeing more and more what I mentioned around these societal use cases. Like, who's going to run all of the self-driving cars? Who's going to run autonomous robots in our homes, like delivering services to us? So then we need to be really careful once that happens, because Terminator type of scenario could easily happen when AI gets weaponized. And so we want to prevent that.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. I'm hearing the same thing from other AI experts saying that it's going to be trading, it's going to be bots or bots looking for yield, right? Just reshuffling your liquidity pools so that you can have optimized yields. And for all those who are trying to create an AI meme coin, maybe you can host it on the zero gravity infrastructure, right?
Why not? Why not? And then you can claim it's a fully decentralized AI agent.
Exactly, exactly. And that makes a lot of sense, by the way, Michael, to have these AI slash meme coins that, just live in their own world, right? I think it's a very interesting experiment at the bare minimum, right, for us. You touched upon the token, which is the third T a little bit, the importance of governance. I think, Michael, you're absolutely right, like governance here, because of the black box that you were mentioning earlier, which is a bit scary, right, on what type of data is going into feeding the machine itself. And I see you already looking for the right slide. So love to hear from you on the tokenomics side. What is the token's use case, utilities? And I think you're on mute.
Happens at least once every podcast.
One each, one.
That's very funny. Yeah, so there's 1 billion tokens, 0G tokens, and we are thinking it will act like ETH because it'll be both deflationary and inflationary, variable kind of supply. And the utility is that it's a native gas token for the 0G chain. There's staking, there's validator rewards. Eventually we'll have liquid staking and restaking to boost yields as well. We'll have fees for storage, for DA, for our service marketplace. And over time, governance, of course, you can use the token for governance votes. And then potentially we're thinking about what if we can also incentivize staking by having discounts on some of the fees of the network. So still thinking about some of those use cases, those are a little bit further out. And then from a pure tokenomics perspective, we have a principle of community first. So you see 58% allocated to the community, which is split between the node sale, the ecosystem, and liquidity provisions. So that's exchanges, market makers, all of those aspects. And then on the team and investor side, we've got 20% on investors and 22% on the team side. So those are the basic tokenomics.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So it really operates like a blockchain, like an infrastructure. But on top of that, you have some additional aspects in terms of the fees from different components and modules that are connected to your infrastructure. So that sounds very, very nice. And the governance, to me, is probably the most important, to make sure that, as you said, you're not in a black box, it's on chain. Michael, I believe the most transformational technology is built at crossroads. So when you can combine the technologies of different layers that really just help it compound in the value it provides to people. So here, a trustless network on chain with AI makes total sense. You guys heard about it earlier. What about the traction? If we can go to the fifth T, can you tell us a little bit about your traction? Do you have dApps building already on top, or at least preparing to build on top of 0G, social media, community size, anything that you want to share with us?
Yeah, let me share a few statistics. We're actually super excited by this. So on our testnet, we basically had 600,000 wallets. I already mentioned that we had a lot of competition for validator slots, about 67x oversubscribed. We had 6,000 plus storage nodes, and this data processed as many terabytes at this point, so it's a bit outdated. We have 300 plus projects building on top of us, not just AI projects, but also we integrated with the OP stack, for example, and their Alt DA stack. We integrated with Alt Layer that can then offer L2s, full AI capabilities. We crossed 10 million transactions per day in our testnet without an issue. And so super, super pumped about these statistics, really great companies building with us. Here's a little bit more of a deeper dive. This is also outdated. We need to actually update it, but we've got the traditional infrastructure stack. We've got a kind of consumer stack with gaming and also DeFi. And then, of course, a very big AI bucket, and then kind of the supply side with like ZK providers, some restaking providers. That's just a very small snapshot. We've also launched an AI accelerator. And actually, as part of the first batch, we had Carve, which recently listed on Bybit and Upbit, and super proud of the team. They've reached more than $1 billion in FTV. And so, just the team is amazing. They recently invested in our Node sale as well. So super excited to have them be a part of the ecosystem, and we're doing really deep integrations with them. Other noteworthy ones are Data Hive. They just signed a big deal with one of the state departments in the United States. Super pumped for them. So that's going to be a big, big thing. Cygnus Finance is building a stablecoin and has hundreds of millions of TVL already. So just a phenomenal initial cohort. And the second one is starting pretty soon as well. So the benefit to our ecosystem is that if you hold a node or if you're a staker, the people building on top of us will want to distribute rewards as well to the people that are staking or holding nodes. And so that's a big benefit from being part of the ecosystem too. So very intentional about kind of the design and the building of it. Finally, if we just go back to the slides, we've had tremendous traction on the social side. Need to update this as well, but definitely 100x growth in our socials, both on the X side. Discord is actually it's grown 145x, and it's up to 300,000 people as well. Very active community. A lot of people that participated in the rewards vote. So super fun memes too. So if anything, just come for the memes. I always get a good kick out every day. If I feel down in a particular day or tired, I look at the meme channel. I just start cracking up. So phenomenal community there. So yeah, that's some of the kind of key traction aspects.
Amazing. There's nothing else to say but amazing. That was very, very helpful. Thank you so much, Michael, for sharing the traction, and congratulations for all of that with regards to the dApps, the community. And I always find that to be the most complicated part of any infrastructural play. Some people are really good at getting dApps, but not a community, or vice versa. Some people are really good at getting a community, but no one's building on top. Because the problem about infrastructural plays, and the challenge that I think most people have, is that it's both a B2C and B2B business. It's very complex in those ways. And it's good to see that you're working on both fronts simultaneously, which is very important. And now I'm going to throw at you one of the most difficult questions, Michael, which is the timing of the sale, right? Because obviously many people are scared. They're like wondering, oh, what if I invest now? What if there's a bear cycle in the future? How's the distribution going to look like, et cetera? And obviously, I've already mentioned that big projects like yours that have tremendous funding will survive. I'm 99% sure. But what are the terms in terms of when you invest into a node, what do you get? What's the duration, the lockup, all these type of things? If you don't mind sharing a little bit on that front.
Absolutely. I mean, just like Solana or Avalanche wasn't built in a day, very similarly, decentralized AI is not going to be built in a day. Even 2 to 3 years from now, I think we will just reach parity given how quickly the centralized AI space is moving. So this is not like a 1 year list on an exchange and then disappear type of project. This needs to be, this can be decades in order to build the right infrastructure that society can be run on. And so we're really looking at it from a long-term perspective. My previous company I ran for 10 years myself before we ended up selling it. And so I very much take a long-term perspective. So from a node perspective, we do have the same philosophy. So the lockup or the distribution schedule is essentially 36 months. And that gives us enough time to do fundamental research into AI alignment so that by the time the 36 months is over, that those nodes become part of the permissionless and decentralized infrastructure and then actually live off the fees from the network. And so after 36 months, we don't believe it's over. You can actually get more fees after that, assuming that all the research really goes well with that. And then we also want to structure it in such a way that it's not just purely long-term focused, that there's also some initial short-term benefit. So as I mentioned, we put it up to a community vote where we've had initially said that 33% of the supply will be a reward right when you do KYC and start running the node. And then the community chose another option where they even get a little bit more upfront. And so a lot of the early tiers, and this is some analysis that a Korean influencer did, that I think the early tiers, they all break even essentially within basically upon the listing of the token. And then even the mid tiers break even after 6 months. So I don't have it right in front of me. I just kind of remember a little bit in terms of what the analysis was, but it was very encouraging to see it kind of assuming that if the node sale sells out around 50%, that's what we would see.
That makes a lot of sense. And being able to distribute more than half the tokens within year one post listing, that's very, very reassuring. And you just mentioned something that's really interesting, which is a long-term vision. And I'd love to ask you a question on that. Like, where do you see yourself going in like 3, 5, 10 years? Maybe the crossroads of a trustless network, AI, and robotics, for instance. Maybe you want to scale human beings and their ability for us to live on chain forever. Like, and feel free, like Michael, if you have any crazy ideas, sci-fi type stuff, you can go for it. But yeah, what is that end vision for you, like with regards to zero gravity?
Yeah, so one step at a time. So the first 2 to 3 years are all about getting to parity with centralized AI. So a lot of research goes into that. Then it's about tapping into the superpowers of blockchains. Like, can we use blockchains for AI alignment? Basically, meaning that if we have needs as human beings, how do we ensure that AI, who's going to be running systems, meets those needs of human beings? And so that's super critical. So that's that. So blockchains can really play an important part in it. Beyond that, what I believe blockchain and AI can enable is a world of abundance. If we get this right, and if AI doesn't get weaponized, then imagine a world where you choose what to do for your work and don't have to work for a living anymore. It's all about reaching your higher potential. I mean, that's the type of world that I would like to build. I just had a daughter about 3 months ago, and she's basically going to be crypto and AI native. And I want her to live in a world where it's full of abundance, full of joy, full of happiness, because AI and kind of blockchain technologies really enabled that for her. So that's the world that I want to see.
I think that's a perfect note to finish this on. I have a daughter myself, and I hope at least she'll be crypto and AI native. She's already using ChatGPT, and hopefully in 5 years' time she'll be using Fireflies as well. Thank you so much, Michael. And we look forward to working with you in the long run and seeing you succeed.
Yeah, we're super excited about this partnership. Thanks, Alex. Really appreciate all the work you guys are doing. I know there's a lot going on in the background, and you have like a huge team that needs to make sure everything works from like the legal angles to the technology angles to like the product and the productization and the community management. So really appreciate all the kind of deep work that you do. And Zero G Labs is super excited to partner with SwissBorg.
Likewise, and I want to say here live, I see you guys being a unicorn and probably also a decacorn in the future. Don't trust me, do your own research, everybody. But yes, the OG sale is going to go live on SwissBorg. So don't forget to check the app and buy the nodes if you want to support Michael and his vision of a decentralized AI future, building the AI future together. Thank you so much for coming on the call, Michael, and catch you very soon.
For sure. Happy to be here. Thanks again, Alex.